So let us get started. In the last class, I think we have looked into adding parameters, and then we have used one approach which was copy approach, right? Now what basically I want to do is I want to uh, work, or basically I want to add some more stuff, or make my ARM templates much more flexible and much more reusable. So for that, what is that I can do? That's the whole point. That is what will be discussing right now. Okay, right. So let me open the stuff. Okay, right, right. And then in the meantime, let us open that ARM template also. Azure ARM zone May 20, right? Okay, all right, fine. So whenever we are working on ARM templates, okay, so ARM template functions. ARM template gives us lot of functions which help us in basically manipulating whatever you want to do with ARM. So ARM template functions, right? So now if you look into this template functions, these are all, most of the things are very common kind of functions, but we have a whole set of functions over here. Okay, so functions that can be used in ARM templates. These are the whole set of functions. Okay, so when if you someone basically tries to look into, okay, what is that I can do with respect to ARM templates? Okay, these are the functions which you already have. Not only that, okay, Azure, or you can define your own functions, okay. So there is a section in ARM templates which is called as user defined functions. Okay, using user defined functions. Okay, so generally it is very rare that you would basically go ahead and create your own function, but even if you have to do that, it is not very difficult. Okay, so right now if you look into this, he's trying to tell that function you have to give a function parameters and what will be the output of the function. If you look into this, okay, so this is basically a user defined function where you have to tell what is the namespace of the function, what are the different parameters, and what is the value that you might end up creating, right? So generally we'll not look into user defined functions at this moment. Let us go into some other functions, right? So if you look into these functions, okay, let me try to go into a function which is called as copy. Remember yesterday we have used, I think whenever we have used something called as copy, we have used this copy index. Okay, so I'll open the last classes template. If you remember, Okay, so I've used copy, and in the copy I've said that parameters of subnet count. Okay, now let us get into this copy in ARM templates. Now in this copy, okay, there are two modes. One is a serial mode, the other one is parallel mode. Serial mode means the resources which you have said in copy will be created one after other. Parallel means they will be trying to create everything at one shot. Batch size means if you have a 10 as a count, if you have 10 as a count, and then you want to create them in the order of two first, next two next, and then you can give the batch size. That is basically what happens. Okay, and now generally whenever you are trying to create a copy, okay, this will try to create a copy of whatever resources which you have selected for. Okay, and to answer the Neil Rao's question, which says that okay, uh, there is no need to mention any dependency. Your copy doesn't know about dependencies. Your resource knows about dependencies. So you have to write a depends on section in the resource, not in here, not in here, not in here. That's how you deal with it. Okay, right? So mode, serial or parallel. Okay, right? So copy index is a function which we basically used, which tries to tell what is the current index. First time whenever you are iterating, it will try to tell the index is 0. Second time index is 1. Third time the index is 2. So you get this index function, right? And now here let me try to do one improvisation. Okay, so if you see, okay, I'll try to write it. Let's use some functions. Okay, now observe the below parameters, where we have two parameters defined. Okay, so you have subnet count and you have subnet names. Okay, subnet count is used as a parameter in copy. So if you remember, this subnet copy is something which I am using in here. Okay, so I'm using this subnet copy and parameters of subnet count. Okay, we can eliminate this extra parameter, okay, by a very simple function. Very simple function. So if you go into this template functions, okay, let me get into array functions. In array functions, you will have something called as length. So what is the length of an array? Will try to tell you. It will try to tell you what is the count of the stuff. Do you need to take a parameter for that? No, right? So the thing which I can do is, rather than writing parameters of subnet ranges and parameters of count and all of that stuff, okay, I really don't need this. I can basically say length of, okay, parameters of CADR. That's it. Okay, so and I don't need this parameter subnet count also. Okay. Why do I need an extra parameter? So am I clear on this? Okay, and now if you look into this, here I am giving default value as entire and all of that stuff. Okay, Now let me try to do this. Okay, so with this change, the ARM template looks like this. Okay, so if you look into this, I don't need an extra parameter. Okay, what is that I've done? Rather than basically writing the whole stuff over here, okay, so this is something which I've done. Okay, the specific changes, right, the specific changes this. All right, so I have used length of parameters of subnet slash CIDR range. Okay, and then if you look into this I am not documenting, but if you look into this, there is a default value of entire slash. Why should I add entire slash every time? Why should I add entire slash every time? Okay, so let me go over here, go into all functions, string functions. Okay, and in string functions, if you basically look into string, okay, so try to look into how they are using the string functions. Strings of value convert. Okay, base 64 ends with last, length, index, substring, all of this. Okay, so rather than doing this, I'll remove all of this. Okay, okay, and wherever I am creating this subnet resources name, okay, where is subnet resources name? Okay, so here what is that I'm trying to do is parameters of subnet of copy index. This is what I'm using, right? Okay, so now here, rather than using this, I'll try to tell, okay, oh sorry, parameters of, okay, vnet name slash, okay, here there is a function called as concat of slash, or let me use this, it's slash, comma, this. Now parameters of copy index, right? So I have concat. Let me see, there is something which is missing. Okay, first I have to close this, right? So are you seeing this? Now there is no need for me to write in that way. I can just write subnet names. Okay, and while I'm calculating the subnet names, I'm using this expression. So functions basically give you this kind of flexibility, okay, and then not only this, right, you see something called as a resource. In sometimes you might need to find out what is your resource ID, what is your extension ID, and all of that stuff. In that cases, you can use these functions. Okay, so not this arm2.md, yeah, right. So in some cases we need to refer resource related functions. Okay, Okay, so generally we can basically look at what is, if you want to basically write the location. So let me show you one resource simple function over here. I'm writing location every time, right? Location is East US. Okay, so let us see what I'll try to do. So VNet address, this is all stuff. Location is, I can basically say, rather than writing this location, I can say that, okay, take the location of resource group dot location. Location of resource group dot location. There is no need for you to give a location every time. Okay, same thing goes wherever you see the location, right? You need not give it every time. Okay, so location, whatever is the resource group's location, that will become my location. So yeah, yeah. So rather than hard coding location, hard coding means directly writing location, we can use in this way. Location is resource group slash function. So in this case, what would happen? You will always, whatever is the resource group's location, you will get resource group's location. If you want to give resource group's name, you can give resource group dot name. So functions give you some additional behavior, That is an advantage of function. Okay, right. Okay. When we concat, the value should be passed as no. When we concat, why do you need to pass the value as entire slash web? Okay. So in this case, when we concat, if you look into the subnet values, I've changed the values to this. Change the values to this. Okay, it is no longer entire slash, because it will try to find out whatever is the parameter which you have passed for VNet name slash your subnet name slash your subnet name. Now, if you want to create 5 more subnets, just give one more subnet called as ADDS. So now it will create 5 subnets. There is no need for you to change two values, right? You can all deal with one value. That is the flexibility which we will be getting. Am I clear on this? Okay, right. So including all changes, all the above changes, the template is this. Okay, so you can look into that template to find out the basic stuff, right? So let me write it as JSON. Okay, okay. So you can add many number of functions. For example, parameters slash. Okay, wherever you are looking at square bracket syntax, everything is a function. Okay, so let me go into all functions. So sorry, saying you are using parameters of, this parameters of is a function. Okay, right? So similarly, there is an environment. Okay, so it tries to give you environmental information. It tries to give you the environmental information. For example, if you want to know any information about your stuff, you need to use this environment function. So there are loads of functions available over here, right? So we'll be discussing about variable in couple of minutes, but the whole point is you can do, there are loads of functions, and depending on your need, you can use any one of the functions which are shown over here. Okay, and you can create your own functions also, but that is a very unlikely that you are going to create your own function. Okay, right. Now let's add variables to your ARM template. Okay, we already have spoken about parameters. Okay, then what are these variables? Variables are values which are not provided by user executing the ARM template. If you remember, parameter was values which are provided by the users who are executing the ARM template. Okay, rather they are values which can be calculated, which one can be calculated within template. Okay, so for example, okay, whenever you are writing any template, there are certain things which you take as an input, there are certain things which you don't take as an input, there are certain things which you don't take as an input, right? So those kind of things will become variables. Parameters are input and variables are something which are not input. So what I'll try to do is I'll try to copy all of this and try to create one more stuff where I'll try to call it as vnet improvised again.json. So in this, if I want to calculate any of the things again and again, okay, so I can go ahead and I can add a section called as variables. I can add a section called as variables. Okay, now first let us look into the documentation of template variables. Let me look into ARM template variables. Okay, right. So are you seeing this is basically what variables are? This is basically what variables are. Okay, right. We will try to use one syntax there. Okay, now let us look at a syntax. Okay, variable is you will have resources and you can use variables of. Okay, and if you want to define variables, you can define variables, and variables are something which you compute, which you calculate within your own resources or ARM template. Okay, so what I'll try to do is, let us assume that, okay, we are, if you look into this variables, okay, I can say that I can define a ARM variable. Okay, so what is my ARM variable? Just look into this. I'm following the same syntax. Okay, my variable is subnet count. Okay, and here I'll be trying to tell that my subnet count is length of parameters of, okay, subnet names. And over here, rather than writing all of this, I'll be trying to tell that it is variables of subnet count. Okay, and now if you look into the name of your template over here. Okay, so for this also you can basically use the template. Okay, anything which you are computing, anything which is computed. Okay, so if you don't want to calculate this location again and again, so you can define a variable saying that, okay, variable ARM hyphen variable. So ARM variables are, okay, what, resource group dot location. Okay, so whenever you want to use location, okay, so where is location? Rather than writing this expression every time, you can write square bracket of variables of location. These are values which can be computed. Parameters are the values which cannot be computed, which user has to provide. Okay, parameters are the values which user has to provide. Okay, so are we clear with respect to difference with parameters and variables? Parameters are the values which user has to provide. Okay, so parameters are values which user has to provide and cannot be computed in a template, and variables are values which can be computed in a template. Am I clear, sir, on this? Yes or no? Yeah, right, right. You see, Mohammed, I didn't got your Krishna Mohammed, I didn't got your question. I have already defined a variable on the top. So when we are using the below variable, we should write variables of variable name. The expression is okay. Whenever you want to use, just like parameters. Parameter also you are defining on the top. But how are you using? You are basically trying to tell parameter of parameter name, right? This is how you are defining parameter. Variable also the story is same. You are basically defining by saying that I have defined a variable on the top. Whenever I want to use a variable, I have to use variable of location. That is what I have used, right? So it is same as parameter when it comes to syntax. When it comes to syntax of it. Okay, right. It's okay, sir. If auto completion is not working, it is not really a very difficult thing to do, right? Type it, type it. Okay, if it is not working, it's okay. If it is working well and good, if it is not working, then type it. Okay, right. Reinstall, uninstall, and then do it. Okay, right. So now what I'll try to do is I have a resource over here, and this resource is basically for creating subnets. This resource is basically for creating what do you call storage accounts. Now I will try to write a resource which basically creates a virtual machine. So let me try to write ARM hyphen sorry ARM hyphen virtual machine Ubuntu. Okay. So are you saying he is giving you all the different things that are needed? Okay. Right. But let us not get into it. Let us get into it in the structure which we have tried to learn it. So resources, template resources. Okay. ARM template resources. Let us get into reference, template reference. Okay. And then let me get into virtual machines. Where is that virtual machine? No. Azure VM. How can I miss this, man? I use it. It is straightforward. Compute the create section called as compute by any chance. Yeah. Okay. All right. So compute all resources. In compute resource, let me go to a type which is called as VM. Okay. If you scroll down, you'll be basically looking at virtual machines. Okay. Now let me select this virtual machine. Now in this virtual machine, you have the whole stuff. Okay. So for example, you have to give virtual machine. Okay. And then you have to try to tell what is the location, what is the tags, what is the plan. Okay. You have to fill all of this. You have to fill all of this. Okay. So let us try to write, okay, a virtual machine template to create a Linux machine. To create a Linux machine. Okay. So let us get started from there. So we already have network. Okay. We already have a storage account. Okay. And now what I'll try to do is I'll try to create the rest of the stuff. Okay. The rest of the stuff which I need to create is I need to create something called as ARM hyphen network security group. Are you seeing network security group? So the name of the network security group, I am calling it as open all. Okay. So location is fine. And okay, we need to get into network. Okay. We need to get into, where is network, all resources. Okay. Network security groups, and I'll be taking the latest date. Okay. So this is my latest date. Okay. Right. Protocol is TCP, source is a thing. Yeah. Yeah. So this by default allows everything. Okay. Right. And I'll try to basically add one more rule over here. NSG rule 2. Direction is outbound. Okay. So for the people who didn't understood this, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a network security group, which is firewall kind of a stuff. Okay. Not exactly a firewall, but this is something which will allow incoming connections into your virtual machine and allow outgoing connections to your virtual machine. So whenever you have created the Azure virtual machine in the portal, you will be selecting, okay, 80 port and 22 port. So generally that is what you would be selecting. Now this is a very insecure approach. Ideally you should be giving source port, a specific port, and then trying to write those whole stuff. But for the sake of this uh, series or this time, it is okay. This is okay. Okay. And now the other thing which we need to create is, okay, now I have, okay, the network security group. The next thing which I need whenever I'm creating the Azure virtual machine is I need something called as public IP address. So ARM hyphen, let me see if I get IP address. Yeah, public IP address. Okay, right. So let me give the name of it as my IP. Okay. So date again, I'll not be taking a risk. Date will be public IP addresses. Okay. So date is same. Right. Now, do I need DNS settings? I don't think so. I need DNS settings. Okay. But I'll do one thing. I'll basically select properties. Apart from properties, I would have something called as SKU. Okay. SKU and name colon basic. Okay. So if you don't have this, you need to go to the IP address and then you need to look into this and then you need to fill in the value. I'm not writing anything magical over here. I'm just trying to write whatever is basically mentioned from here. Okay. Right. Now, for the people who are new to networking, the basically what is happening over here is, okay. So in Azure, we have created a virtual network. In virtual network, I have created subnets. Okay. So in subnet, I'll be creating virtual machine. Consider this to be Azure virtual machine. Now, how will this virtual machine be connected to this subnet? They should be connected to the subnet, right? So for this, we create something called as network interface. This network interface. This network interface is nothing but much like how you plug in a network cable into your laptop. You will have a socket kind of stuff. This is a virtual socket. And now actually IP address is given to this network interface. Okay. So your machine is getting public IP address because this network interface gets a public IP address. Your machine is getting a private IP address because this machine gets a private IP address. This machine gets a private IP address. Okay. right? That's how the things basically work. That's how the things basically work. Okay, right. So the next thing obviously which I need to create is, okay, so if you go over here, network interfaces. So this is something which I'll be creating. Okay, so if you have the ARM template plugin installed, so ARM NIC network interface. Okay, so my NIC and date is this. Okay, and then okay, so what is that? It depends on, okay, it depends on Microsoft.network.virtual networks. Yes, but my virtual network's name is not virtual network. What was the virtual network's name which we have basically created? Parameters of VNet name. Okay, parameters of VNet name. Okay, right. So this is something which you can basically write, and not only that, it also depends on IP address. So you are trying to tell that it is resource ID of, yeah, depending, and I said that, right? You can write resource ID functions. I'm using resource ID functions. Okay, Microsoft dot, okay, comma, what is the range which I've given? What is the name which I've given? My IP, my IP, right? You can write everything at one shot. Okay, I have to write single quotes because within double quotes I cannot have double quotes, right? Okay, right. So I've basically created this configuration, and the last thing that is left is virtual machine. Okay, now when I create a virtual machine, I'll basically go ahead and then I'll try to give, okay, ARM virtual machine. Okay, so generally these scripts give you a lot of information, but for that reason let me not do it. Let me try to write ARM virtual machine. So I think we have basically selected that virtual machine somewhere over here. Okay, didn't we? Okay, then I'll try to go with that. In the compute section, all resources, you go with virtual machines. So I select this virtual machines, and this is the whole stuff. So I'll be writing ARM hyphen, okay, or let me write the resource. Okay, the first thing is name. Okay, name of this is Qt DevOps. Okay, the next one is type. So look at type. So till this point you can basically copy paste. Okay, all right. So location, I can write resource group, or I have written variables of location. Okay, so let me get into tags. Okay, and do I want to give any plans name? Okay, so if you look into this quick start templates, you will have everything. So you go into basically create a single virtual machine and all that stuff. Okay, there is generally no need for you to write everything from beginning, but I'm still writing it. I'm still writing it because I want you guys to understand how to write the template. Okay, right. So let me go over here. Okay, so if you go into this documentation over here, okay, plan, is it required? I don't want to have a plan. Okay, and then always try to write depends on section. Okay, so you are trying to tell that I am going to depend on, what are the different things which you are going to depend on? I am going to depend on resource ID of, oh sorry, I'm going to depend on, okay, resource ID. So what is the resource ID? Which resource do you want to rely on? I want to rely on network interfaces. Okay. And what was my network interfaces name? So if you go into here, what was my network interfaces name? mynic. Okay. So mynic, you can define it as a variable. Okay. Don't use double quotes. Within double quotes, you have to use single quotes. All right. So mynic. This is the first dependency. And what is that your virtual machine will depend on? It needs IP addresses also. So now try to tell that I'll be depending on resource ID of, okay, public IP addresses, comma, my IP. Okay. Not only that, it also depends on, okay, you have written my IP network security group. Yes, we also depend on network security group, because only after network security group is created, we want resource group to be created. So resource ID of network security groups, comma, open all. Right, something like this. You'll define your order. I've written dependencies, and then I'm writing a properties section. Now go into this documentation. Into this documentation, there is a properties, and properties belongs to virtual machine properties objects. In this, you can give hardware profile. So let me start with hardware profile. Hardware profile. See what is hardware profiles object. Hardware profile object. Okay. You need to tell about VM size. You need to tell about VM size. So this is very much simple. So hardware profile object, give VM size, and free machine is standard underscore b1. Yes, that's it. So the first property is done. So we have selected the hardware profile. Then we have to give storage profile. Is it required? No, I'm not going to give the OS profile. I'll be giving OS profile, which specifies the operating system. So let me give OS profile. Okay. What will be the structure of OS profile? It is an object. Since it is an object, I'm starting with curly braces, and then I get into an OS profile. Okay. In OS profile, I have to give what is the computer name. Okay. So I'll give computer name. As I'm hard coding it, which is not a very good habit. Ideally, this could be your variable or a parameter. The name Qt DevOps. Okay. Right. And then admin username. I'm hard coding it again. Not a very good thing to be done. Okay. Which is a string. So Qt DevOps. Okay. And then you can give admin password. I give admin password. I give the password as motherindia@123. Right. And then he's asking, do you want to give any custom data? No, I don't want Windows configuration. Yeah, I want to give Linux configuration. So Linux configuration. If you see Linux configuration's value is object. Since it is an object, okay, you have to start with curly brace. Okay. And then in Linux configuration object, if you basically click on this, it will try to tell you what is the structure of Linux configuration object. It tries to tell us disable password based authentication. Okay. So disable password authentication. Okay. Yes. I'll be basically trying to tell that it is false. I want to have password authentication. If you want to have SSH key based authentication, you try to give this. Okay. So I've given OS profile. Okay. Now I know which operating system I'm trying to create. Now I need to basically worry about which image I am going to create. Okay. So let us go back to our previous stuff. Okay. OS profile. See storage profile. In storage profile, I have image reference and OS disk. These are the two values which are left to be created. And then we need to create a network profile. Okay. Storage profile and network profile. So let us add that. Okay. So generally you need not write all of this. I'll try to tell you why you need not write all of this. Image reference. Okay. Publisher. Let me try to select Ubuntu 18.04. Publisher is canonical, and then we'll have offer. Offer is Ubuntu server. If it is Windows, you'll be selecting the Windows details, and then SKU. SKU is just a model name, right? So 18.04 hyphen LTS version will be latest. Okay, and then I'll be selecting OS disk. Okay, let me get into OS disk. In OS disk, let me try to select this. Okay, not this one. OS disk object. Okay, so in OS disk object, you can basically select different options. You can select different options, but let us look at what is required over here. So are you seeing creation option? And in creation option, okay, create option, you need to give the enumeration. Enumeration is attach and from image. Okay, so from image means whatever is present in the image, that disk will be created. That is the most easiest and sensible option for us to use. So create option from image. Okay, so our storage profile is also done, OS profile is also done, and then the last one is network profile. Network profile. So if you look into network profile, you need to tell what are your network interfaces. Network interfaces, and I'm quite sure that we already know what is our network interface. Okay, so let me get into this network profile. Where is network profile? Yeah, network profile. Yeah, network interfaces. So if you go into the network interface, you have to basically select ID, and in the ID you have to select the basically network interfaces properties object. So it is try to write ID, and then in here try to write resource ID of your network interface. Okay, done. Okay, so now you might have a confusion. Why am I doing? Why am I not asking you to go through all of this? So the reason for that is generally 99% of the time, whatever templates which we write, ARM templates, GitHub, Azure has almost written all of the templates for us. Okay, the whole idea over here is trying to understand to read that. So for example, let me open this very simple template. Okay, one VM, two network interfaces cards, two NICs, and all of that stuff. If you go into Azure deploy.json, okay, so it tries to give you all the values, all the variables. Are you seeing the resources? So if you are able to read this or use this directly or change this ARM template, it is 99% of the times more than enough, more than enough. Okay, so I'll be giving you a reference to this. So generally the ideal way of writing ARM templates is we generally don't start from scratch. We take the ARM template of some existing template and then we make changes. Okay, for that you need not know everything or how to write it from scratch, but even writing it from scratch is not a very difficult area, right? So now let's add VM creation. Okay, so now this is my template. So first of all, let me validate if my template is right or wrong. So let me copy the path. We know how to create a template, right? So let me get into portal. I know that I'm seeing some questions, but I'll answer them. First, let me finish this. Okay, let me go into home, resource groups. Okay, So let me create a resource group over here where I'll try to tell that, okay, ARM template demo create. Okay, so I'll go over here and then I'll basically add a template deployment. Add a template deployment. Create. Okay. Next time when we do this, let us do it from CLI. Or Azure PowerShell, anything. Okay. So load file, select this stuff. Okay. So if I have written everything correctly, then this should work. Otherwise it will fail. Otherwise it will fail. As simple as that. Let me click on save. Okay. Now it is asking this is this what you want? You would try to tell yes, this is exactly what I want. Okay. Please fix the error on this page. Okay, I need to agree this template and then continue. Okay, right. There is no need for you to do this. Okay, most of the times what we will do is we will try to take the existing templates. Okay, there are redefined templates from Microsoft available over here. Okay, so it will have all sorts of complicated, simple, all different templates. Okay, the thing which you need to do is you need to basically take these templates and know how to deploy them. So let me try to clone them. Okay, I will get into C drive Azure. Okay, let me clone it over here itself. Okay, don't worry about this command if you don't know GitHub. Okay, so are you saying clone or download and download zip and then you unzip the file and download zip and unzip the file. Okay, all right. So let us see what is happening. There were validation errors. Click here to view details. I might have written some errors. Okay, storage account name is already taken. Okay, LT storage demo. Right. Okay. Right. There will be too many templates over here. Let us wait for this stuff to be cloned. And let me open Visual Studio Code over here. Okay. Right. So this is what I want to look at. Let us look into Azure deploy. Okay. Let me basically minimize this. Are you seeing he's writing parameters section? After parameters, he has written the variable section. Okay. And then he is using all of these variables, right? Now, by using this, can you deploy or not? That's a whole stuff. So if you look into readme.md, he tries to tell that if you want to deploy this, this is how it would look like. And the parameters, whatever you have defined, these are the values. Okay. So if you don't like this, you can basically change the values. He's trying to give gen unique and gen password. That is the username and password. If you want, you can change them. If you want, you can change them. Okay. Right. Now, once we have this kind of a template, okay, let me give ut devops Okay, let me have this. Now I want to deploy this template from Azure CLI, from Azure CLI or Azure PowerShell. How do I do that? Okay, so if you basically look into readme.md, okay, and then if you look into the templates, he will try to tell you how to basically deal with all of these values, right? But let us not do into all of this. ARM template deployment using Azure CLI and using Azure PowerShell. So just look at your stuff. You have to basically say that what is your resource group name, what is your template file, what is your template file. Okay, so AZ deployment group create, you have to give your template and you have to give your parameters. So now if I want to deploy any of the file over here, okay, right, so where is it? Let me go to this folder. Okay, so AZ group list. So let me see if the CLI is communicated or not. So how to connect to the CLI, I've already done the YouTube video around it. Okay, so if you go to directdevops.blog and if you click on YouTube, right, configuring Azure CLI and setup and Azure PowerShell and setup, there is already a video over here. Okay, so for configuring Azure CLI and PowerShell, I'll not basically do this in the classroom again because this is very simple. Okay, try basically watching that video here. There everything is present. Now I have to basically write the command. So AZ, okay, first for creating this deployment, if you look into this, okay, if you look into this template, okay, look into this template. So in this template, the first value which they are trying to basically give us, they are trying to give deploy template.json, and then you need to fill up all of these values, right? Fill up all of these values. Now let me try to basically do this. AZ group, okay, create. This is creating a resource group, hyphen hyphen name from CLI, hyphen hyphen location east US. I'm just following the documentations over here. I think oh, location's typo. C is missing in location. All right. Oh no, still there is problem. Yes. Hyphen L. My location spelling was mistaken, and since it is coming to the next page, I've just replaced it with small hyphen L. Okay, right. Now AZ group, you have to just go through this documentation. AZ group deployment, AZ deployment create, okay, deployment group create, and then you have to give what is your deployment's name. Okay, so hyphen hyphen name, okay, learning, and then hyphen hyphen resource group. Okay, if you remember, just now we have created a resource group, and the name which we have given to resource group is from CLI, from CLI, and then you have to tell what is your template, hyphen hyphen template URI. And now if you look into this template URI, if you look into this template URI, okay, if you have that already stored in S3 bucket, then you can give URI. If you don't have that, don't give template URI, use template file and try to tell where is your template. So if you look into this, in my case, my template is in Azure deploy.json. Okay, and at any moment, if you are finding this all the options very difficult to understand, the other thing which you can possibly do is, okay, let me show you that option that is much easier. Okay, AZ deploy group, AZ deployment group. Look at what is that we are trying to do. Deployment group create hyphen hyphen help. Okay, so then it will show you all the options. Okay, sorry, saying I can give template file, I can give parameters. Okay, so I can give all of this. So parameters might be supplied from a file using @path or a JSON string or key equal to value pair. You can give whatever it is, right? So you can give all of these values. Okay, and I think I'll stop it at that. Let me try to do this. Let us see what happens. Okay, then it is trying to tell what is your admin username. I'll try to tell my admin username is Qt DevOps. What is your admin password? My admin password is this. Okay, so I've given this value and then it is running. Now if you get into the resource groups, refresh the resource groups from CLI. Okay, get into deployments. If you remember, just now we have created one deployments. Okay, so seeing from the UI also you can see what is happening in this deployment. What is the template which we have uploaded? Okay, so what is happening underlying? So in most of the cases, whenever you write a ARM template, there is already some template. You take that template, you make the necessary changes, and then you apply those changes to the stuff. Now, for that, we need to understand the basic structure. And that is the reason why we have done all of this exercise all these days. Okay. Now, if you have to do the same Azure deployment using PowerShell, okay, then Azure ARM template PowerShell. So in that case, rather than you deploying by saying AZ deployment create and all of that, you will have new AZ resource group deployment hyphen hyphen resource group name and hyphen hyphen template file. The story is same. Okay. So all right. Deploying template from PowerShell. Okay, and then deploying template from CLI. Okay, so refer. Okay, now let us look into what has happened to our stuff. Okay, this is fine. Okay, I've gone into resource groups. Okay, ARM template demo. And even if you see in this ARM template demo, there is something that has happened. And if you look into deployments, there were some errors, right? This was the error which we need to basically fix. So we have messed up with some resource ID. Okay, so it is trying to tell that you have messed up with one of this stuff. Okay, so why? So please make sure that referenced resource exists, both are in the same region. So somewhere I messed up with the region. Okay, the location in the template which we have written is not right. So the improvised version of it. Okay, so in here, let me try to search for location, 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 location. Everything seems to be right. I think somewhere I might have hard coded central US or something like that. East US. Okay, I'll find out what is the reason. I'll try to find the right. So somewhere I might have hard coded something with respect to region. Okay, right. So this is basically what it is. Whenever you write templates, you always write template by taking step-by-step approach and then creating a JSON and then creating a JSON. Okay, so if tomorrow if I want to create a database, then the stuff which I'll end up doing is, okay, let me close all of these templates because there are too many, this tabs. Okay, I'll go to ARM template reference. Okay, I want to create a SQL database. So I'll go to the SQL. I'll go to all resources. First, I should know what are the steps. So for creating databases, first you should create servers. That is the step which you need to know. That comes with learning Azure. Now here you look at servers. Okay, so are you seeing server classes? Now you can go into these server classes and then write it. This is one way. Or remember I have shown you this Azure Quick Start templates. Over here, try to search for SQL. Sorry, saying we get a lot of examples now. Okay, so let me go with this uh, web app SQL database. Now let me open this Azure deploy. Right click, edit with Notepad. Okay, whatever it is. Now you try to look into resources. So first, what is it he's trying to create? He's trying to create SQL server name. Okay, and then inside that he's trying to create all the other stuff. Okay, so you can either write every template, but Microsoft itself recommends you try to take the existing template and then make changes and then write it That is how we deal with templates. Okay, so SQL server. Okay, where do we have that? Hmm, right, all resources. Right now it is showing everything in the- so right. So where is, one moment, I don't want to get into preview resources. Let me get into this one. Yeah, sorry saying this. So these are all preview modes, right? Preview modes are not something which is sensible to be used. Okay, so this is what you would be using, and in the servers you would have following the resources. That is what you end up creating. Okay, right? There are loads and loads of examples all the time with respect to ARM templates. Okay, you just need to take that examples, modify them to your use cases, and then use them Okay, right. Okay, see, more Krishna Mohan Reddy, we have only one scope over here. It is with respect to the file. Within the file, variables will be alive. Okay, that is how it would be. Okay, so while giving network security groups, we are not trying to tell which port it has to access. We are trying to tell which ports will be open. So if it is a Linux machine, it will be SSH, and SSH is equivalent to 22 port. If it is Windows machine, it is RDP, and RDP is equivalent to 3389, if I'm not wrong. Okay, right. So that is how it is. Those security groups will not open ports, will not tell the ports. They will just open the ports. Right? That is something what we need to look into. Right. So are we clear with this? Okay, there is one last section in ARM templates, which is outputs, which is outputs. Okay, let me go into the last section, which is outputs. Okay, so output is, okay, where is this ARM2? Yeah, outputs in ARM templates. Okay, so ARM template output. So in the output section is something, this is what you will try to basically give. You will try to display whatever output which you want to display, and you can write the condition saying that whether you want to display the output or not, right? So this will be the return value, right? So parameters are input to your template and outputs are what you give back to the user. Okay, so this is something which you want to show to the user. This is something which you want to show to the user. Am I clear on this? Yeah, right. uh, Sir, what is the difference between source port and destination ports, please? Money, I think that is not what we are speaking right now, but still, sir, this is a very simple language, right? You should have gone through my cloud essentials, sir. మీరు క్లాసిక్ అవి చూడకుండా వస్తే నేనేం చేయనండి. ప్రతిసారి మీరు ప్లీజ్ అని అడిగితే ఇప్పుడు నేనేం చేయను, రైట్? సో generally whenever you're writing any security group, right, you will write a rule for a network port. Okay, on the network port, whenever you basically, there will be an incoming rule and there will be an outgoing rule. Okay, incoming is the traffic coming into your virtual machine and outgoing is traffic going out of your virtual machine. When the traffic that is incoming, source means this is your sender. What is your sender port? Okay, so this sender will become source. Okay, and destination will be you for incoming packet. Okay, for outgoing packet, source is you, your virtual machine, and destination is where you want to send it. Now am I clear? Source port is port of in for the incoming port is who is sending, what is his port IP address, and destination is about you. Okay, and while you are sending, source is from which port you are sending, destination is from which port the other person is going to receive when you are sending the packets to the other machines, right? Okay, right. So there are a couple of things which I'll try to speak about. Okay, so right. Templates. Okay, I'll call it as complex templates. Let me not call it as complex templates. Okay, other template deployments. Okay, for reusability. So for example, okay, to reuse your templates, there are two ways. One is called as nested templates. One is called as nested templates. The second one is called as linked templates. Okay, so in both the cases, you reuse the template. In nested templates, what you would do is within your template, you define some other template. Okay, so this will be a child, a template will be child of your template. Linked template is within your template you link means you specify the URL of the other template. So let me show you linked templates. Generally you will never go to this extent, but I don't want to basically So are you saying in nested templates, what we will have is we have a resource. In the resource, we will have one more nested template. Okay. But when it basically comes to a linked template, okay, are you seeing here? You are giving a URL. Okay. So, okay, this is just the basic difference is here you write the whole template by giving a URL. Okay. When it comes to here, okay, you write the whole basically trying to see if you see the stuff, you try to tell that I'm going to write this deployment, the schema is over here, and then you again continue by writing the whole template over here. Here you don't write the template. Here you don't write the template. You just give that. Okay. So this is where my template is available. This is my templates version. For this template, what are the parameters which you want to call, and straight away use them. Straight away use them. Okay. Right. So this is how you do it. Everything will be through a link. In this case, you are writing template within a template. This is not really a reusability. This becomes a reusability. This linked template is something which becomes a reusability. So for this, your template needs to be present on some URL. Okay. So generally, in the case of Azure, we for the people who have already learned it, we have storage accounts. For the people who have not learned it, in the future, we are going to learn about something called as Azure storage account, where you can basically go ahead and then what do you call use store all of your data in your template file right. Okay, fine. So let me do one thing now. We'll basically uh, take a break for 10 minutes, come back, and then we will look at what are the Azure blueprints, and then I'll speak about Azure SQL migration. Azure SQL migration. What are when we want to do database migrations from Azure? How do we deal with this? Okay. So let me take a break of. Okay. Uh, break till 7:55 p.m. Okay. Right. Okay, guys. So, all right. What will ARM templates help us? ARM templates will help us in deploying infrastructure. In deploying infrastructure. Yes or no? Do you agree with me on that? Yes, sir. Do you agree or don't you agree with me on this? Right. Now, generally, the whole stuff which is basically that needs to be done is, okay, we need to deploy applications, but it is just not about deploying applications, right? We should also worry about, okay, so what are the different complaints or the different standards which our organization needs to follow? For example, if your company is deploying a healthcare application, it might have HIPAA standards or whatever it is. There might have some audits that need to be done. Okay, so whenever you are deploying your application, that is just not about deploying applications. You also need to worry about to which user you should allow basically accessing and to which user you should not allow accessing, right? So it is just not about application deployments. Okay, so when we deploy applications, we also need to, okay, manage, okay, something called as role assignments. Okay, so this is something called as IAM, identity and access management. So how do you manage roles? Which user is allowed, which user is not allowed? Okay, and then we might have to restrict users. Okay, or let me put it in this way. We have to follow some policies which have been basically created by your organization. Okay, so this is Azure policy. Then you need to create infrastructure. So this is nothing but ARM template. Okay, so generally when you create a ARM template, we will be creating also resource groups. So deploying applications, okay, or applications in Azure or any cloud. Okay, we need to what we need to worry about? We need to worry about role assignments. We need to worry about policies. We need to worry about how are we going to do that? That is infrastructure. And where are we going to do that? That is probably a resource group which will basically speak about it. Okay, and Azure has, okay, a service which exactly does this, and is called as Azure Blueprint, Blueprint. Now let us look into this. Okay, so I'll do one thing which I generally don't do in this classroom. Okay, so which is I'll go into my Active Directory. Okay, and I don't remember the users. That's a reason. Okay, I need to know one user. Or yeah, we have Han Solo. Okay, remember this Han Solo. Okay, right. Now what I want to do is I want to create Azure, or I want to create a blueprint. Man, blueprint. Okay, so then blueprint will basically try to tell me, do you want to create a new blueprint? Okay, we can create a blueprint then apply it to certain scope. So we'll worry about what is that scope. Okay. So remember, this is still in preview mode. There will be a lot of changes in this, but right, majority of the activities are all already done in this. This is just a container, so there is nothing new over here. Okay. So I'll basically go ahead and deal with this. Okay. So let me go with Azure. Okay. Yeah, 25. Right. Let's create a Azure blueprint. Okay. Preview dot slash images slash arm 25.png. Right. So I'll basically say that I want to create a blueprint. And when I say that I want to create a blueprint, okay, it will try to tell me, okay, there are many blueprints which Azure has already came up with. So are you seeing this? There is Azure security benchmark. There are many stuffs which we can basically deal with. Okay. So, but I'll start with a blank template. I'll start with blank template. Okay. There are many samples over here. Okay. Many samples, but I would be using starting with blank template. Okay. Now, then you need to tell what is the blueprint's name. Okay. My blueprint's name is Hello World. Okay. What is this learning? Okay. And then where do you want to store this blueprint? Okay. So generally, this is where you need to select a management group. But since, okay, we are new to that. Let me not select a management group. Let me select a subscription over here. Okay. So I select my subscription. Okay. And then I click on next. I click on next. All right. Select and then next. Okay. Then it will ask, what is that you want to add? I would say that I want to add an artifact, and my artifact type which I want to create first is resource group. Okay. So I am selecting my artifact type, which is the stuff. Okay. I have to give artifact some display name. Okay. And then I have to give add. Okay. If I want, I can remove this if I want to set any fixed values. Okay. But I'm not going to do that. Okay. So here I'll call this resource group as, okay, vnet demo. Okay. And I'll click on add. And I'll be adding one more artifact into that. And this artifact template, I'll be calling this as ARM template. I'll be calling this as ARM template. So where is that ARM template? Display name vnet. Okay. So over here, I can select my template and I can give my parameters and all of that stuff. So what I'll try to do is I'll try to select whole of my templates. Okay. All right. So I've given some template, the same template which we have used earlier. Okay. All right. Okay. Now let me click on add. Not only that, I can add. Okay. My artifact type, I'll write it as policy. Okay. And when I select the policies, okay, there are many policies which are basically defined by Azure. So let me write. Okay. So allowed locations. Okay, so if you click on this, I can unselect this and I can say that allowed locations are only East US. Okay, and I can add some more policies. Okay, so right, saying them resource, or let me write allowed. Okay, so for there might be some people in this room, you might not know what this policy is, but I'm just trying to give you some options. You can enforce everything. That is what I'm trying to show you. Allowed virtual machine SKU sizes. So in SKU sizes, I can basically say standard underscore v1. Yes. Okay, so this is generally a JSON array, so you need to write standard underscore v1s. Okay, so save this. Not only that, okay, you can also select role assignment, and in role assignment you can say that I want to give a role of reader, whatever that means if you don't know, to a user who is hand dot solo. Okay, so where is that hand solo? Right, now I'll click on add. Sorry, seeing while I am creating, I have not created any infrastructure yet, but I have set the policy. I have set who will be the reader, who will be the owner. I can set all of that, and then I basically save the draft. Then I basically save the draft. Okay, so what is that extra which we are getting apart from ARM template? In ARM template, we get to create resources. Wonderful. So Blueprint stands as a parent to ARM template, where we can set not only the infrastructure which we want to create, we can also do something called as governance, right? We can try to tell the restrictions. We can put restrictions on what we are trying to create. Okay, right. Now, the first thing which you need to do is you need to save this as a draft. Okay, save this as draft. Oh, I'm not sure why it is not saving. Oh, I added everything. Okay, it is saving. Right. Okay, now if you go into Blueprint definitions, okay, and if you do refresh, I think you should be seeing that scope is okay. My scope is subscription, right? Okay, now if you see, I have selected this Hello World subscription. Okay, so this is what I have, and now whenever I want to make this blueprint available to all of the employees or whoever the other stuff is, I can go with publish blueprint. Okay, so first submit the blueprint, and after that, okay, look into blueprint definitions. Okay, 30, right? After you get into blueprint definitions, then you can try to tell that publish blueprint, that this is when you want to make it available. This is when you want to make it available to others, right? So, and whenever you publish, this is the most important thing, version. Okay, remember, you always need to worry about version. You always need to worry about version. So you need to give version. The reason why version is important is you can have different versions of the blueprint. So I'm writing it as 1.0.0. Okay, so let me save this rather than this one. So I'm giving version. Now tomorrow in the future, if I make changes, I'll have two versions, 1.0.0 and 1.1.0 probably. And whenever I'm deploying, I can deploy any version, whether it is 1.1.0 or 1.0.0 is actually the choice which I'll have. Okay, then I'll say publish. Okay, so publishing means it is available to all of you. And once you have published the blueprint, if you want to create resources, then you have to say something called as assign a blueprint. Then you have to say something called as assign blueprint. Okay, so assigning the blueprint is creating resources. Now I'll try to say assign blueprint. Okay, creating blueprints, as many blueprints as you want, is absolutely zero cost. Now whenever you assign a blueprint, if you see, it is asking parameters. Okay, right? So this is the location. You can choose whatever location that you want it to be. And remember this lock assignment, if you say that read only, then no other user will be able to make any changes to whatever you are trying to create. So let me try to select East US. And then he is trying to tell what is the identity which you want to basically use. Okay, I will say that assign. Let me click on assign. Okay, then are you seeing it is asking me what is your resource group's name? Okay, my resource group's name is testing. Okay, so what is your resource group location? My resource group location is East US. Okay, what is your admin username? Qt DevOps. Okay, what is your virtual machine size? If you remember, I have to give only B1S. If I try to create anything apart from B1S, it will try to fail. Now you try to set all those values, whatever you want to set, and click on assign. It will create the whole stuff for you. But as I'm trying to tell this again, okay, so this is a very high level activity. Generally people who are admins, we don't tend to create this blueprint stuff comes into play whenever you are this is an organizational choice, right? Whenever you are deploying your applications and you are moving to the cloud, how do you manage your cloud? This is an architectural decision. And whenever you make architectural decisions, whatever ARM templates which you have written will be called from blueprints. That's the whole idea. Of blueprints. Okay, so I'm not doing that, but understand that you can assign blueprints. Assigning means creating blueprints. Okay, so you can have blueprint definitions, you can have all of that stuff. Blueprint is okay, a collection of IAM roles or role based access control, Azure policy, ARM templates, and resource groups. Okay, so this comes into governance. How your company wants to manage cloud. This makes life simple for admins. Okay, if it has been followed up to the mark, because whenever you create a policy, you can assign policy to any number of subscriptions at one time by using Azure blueprints. But if your company is starting newly into Azure, you might not see a lot of benefits with this, but this is a very decent kind of a deployment, right? Okay, now let me go ahead and delete these unnecessary stuffs which I have created. Delete resource group from CLI. Okay, ARM template demo. Okay, delete ARM template demo. Right, good. ARM template is not for users. Okay, blueprints are not for users. Blueprint are basically at subscription or management group. Right? So this is much beyond or much above user level. Okay, it is done at an organizational level. Okay, so for example, if Infosys has some common policies and two Infosys projects have some extra set of policies, you can maintain all of that by using Azure blueprints and Azure management groups. Okay, so when we learn Azure Active Directory, we'll be rediscussing about these topics with identity perspective. Okay, but whatever ARM templates which you have written will be called from Azure blueprints. That is something which you need to understand. Okay, so that is the scope of this discussion. What the ARM templates written by us will be called by Azure blueprints. Okay, so that they can create infrastructure. Okay, but creating infrastructure is not the only plan. We need to manage it also. For managing, we need to worry about role based assignments. We need to worry about policies. So for the people who already know it, you write your RBAC there, you write your Azure policies there. For the people who don't know it, when we learn that, you try and rewrite this topic at that moment. Good. Right, I need to add a lot of images then. 25 to 33. Okay, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 33, 33. Okay, 32, 31, 30, 29, 28, 27, and 26. Okay, all right. Yes. Azure data migration. Okay, so whenever you are migrating Azure database, try to understand one thing. There are two kinds of database migrations. One is online migration, the other one is offline migration. Online migration means your source database is up, and while your source database is running, you will try to migrate it to the Azure so that you don't have downtime. Okay, offline migration means you will not try to do when both the databases are up. You will take the backup of your database which is running in your office, and then you will try to import the data into Azure. That is offline migration. Okay, but Azure has created a very interesting documentation around database migrations. Refer here. Okay, so for example, he is asking, okay, what is the database which you need to migrate? Okay, so I want to migrate, let us assume Microsoft SQL Server. Okay, fine. Where do you want to migrate? To Azure SQL database. Click on this. Then there will be the whole documentation that comes into play, and you have to blindly follow this. Okay, am I clear on this? So shall we all play around with this? Okay, now I'm sharing a link with you. Can you just do this? Go to the browser and then type data migration.microsoft.com. Can you please do this? So once you have opened this page, please try to ping me back. Data migration.microsoft.com. Sir, have you done this? No one has responded yet. Okay, now let us assume that I want to migrate from MySQL to Azure SQL. MySQL to Azure SQL. So how will I do that? I'll select MySQL, and I am trying to tell that I want to go to Azure database, Azure MySQL database. Select this. Okay, so then you look into it. He will try to tell you what are the different things which you need to do. You need to follow the documentation over here. So what are the pre-migration steps, right? What are the migration steps? Okay, along with the documentations, there is whole stuff that is basically present over here. Am I clear on this? So let me go back to the whole home page again, datamigration.microsoft.com. Am I clear on this? Sounds interesting. So any migration which you want to do, okay, these are the possibilities. Select on the database, you can migrate this to the following possibilities. Okay, right? Clear on this? Right? Now, okay, I'll show you one database migration. Right now, you try to basically use whatever that makes sense to you. So Azure Microsoft SQL Server to Azure SQL database. What is the kind of migration which you want to do, offline or online? Okay, so if it is offline migration, what is that you need to do? Okay, if it is an online migration, what is that we need to do? What are the different options which you have? Okay, so I'll be going with this data migration assistant. Okay, so this is a software which I need to install from Microsoft. Okay, download this, install this. Okay, I want to migrate from SQL Server to Azure SQL. Okay, this documentation itself will show you what are the different steps which you need to follow. Okay, so pre-migration, what are the different steps which you need to look into? How do you do the assessment? How do you do the conversion? How do you do the migration? Right, this is interesting one. So I select this. Okay, so I have data migration assistant which is basically being created. Now I think I have SQL Server, but I don't remember its username and password. So let me see. Okay, okay, all right. So can we migrate it cross, right? SQL Server to Azure Oracle. So Azure doesn't have Oracle, by the way. Native support is not there. Okay, so from different clouds, different databases, you can come to Azure. And by the way, why are you asking me this question? Right, I've given you the whole stuff, data migration dot microsoft.com, and then you want to check for cross migration. Select on Oracle. Are you seeing? From Oracle I can migrate to Azure SQL, which is SQL Server. I can migrate to Azure Postgres. I can migrate to SQL Data Warehouse, and I can migrate to SQL Server. Can't you do this, sir? Even after showing this UI, you are still asking me questions. What are possibilities? That is strange, right? Yes, Krishna, am I clear now? Okay, you click on that UI, it will show you all the options. Yeah, right, sir. Now I don't know, man. Hopefully my password is right. Oh, no, no, connect. So on my machine, I think I have SQL Express. Let us see. If this is working fine, otherwise I'll try to basically. Yeah, man. I know this will happen. Uh, okay, so I don't have the stuff at this moment. Okay, uh, what shall I do? I'll do one thing. I'll basically try to put all of these steps, and I'll try to make one video and you follow it. you follow it. I'll try to basically do Microsoft SQL Server to Azure database. Okay, so I'll be installing one SQL Server and I'll be sharing that video with you. Okay, and one more migration which I'm supposed to show it to you is VMware migration, but unfortunately right now in the laptop where I have virtual machine, vSphere is expired, and I'm unable to see that at this moment. I'm unable to show that at this moment. Okay, but you need not wait for me, right? I'll try to make that laptop ready and then share it to you again. But as I said, if you go to directdevops.blog, okay, and if you get into this YouTube, okay, this is the same thing which we have done for Hyper-V. There is no difference. But if you scroll down, if you get into this Azure Essentials, okay, so are you seeing how to migrate VMs from here? So this will not have any volume, but it will show you the steps. These are the same steps which we have done for Hyper-V. It will not have any audio. Okay, so you can look into the documentation and then you can basically look into the steps that have been basically done. Right. So Azure data migration and then Azure VMware or VMware to Azure. Okay. So watch here. Okay, but I'll have this session once that vSphere machine is basically completely formatted. Okay, I don't want to. Why should I speak, sir? Money. That is intentionally I'm not speaking. So do you think that speaking there is difficult for me? No. Have you done Hyper-V to VMware migration, Hyper-V to Azure migration? How many of you in the classroom have done Hyper-V to VMware migration? Okay. Now, if you have done that Hyper-V to VMware migration, just have a look at that UI. See how much different it is. There's nothing different, right? So there also we do assessment, right? But to do the assessment, we need to download an appliance. Same thing, but we will be downloading an appliance into Azure. In this case, we have downloaded an appliance into Hyper-V. There will be downloading an appliance into VMware. Apart from that, there is nothing. Intentionally, I didn't speak there because I want you to follow the documentation, not the words which I speak, right? So have a look at that. But if you are finding that difficult, it is, I don't want to add an audio, man, because I want you to follow the documentation there. Okay. So if you remember, okay, VMware to Azure migration, we have done VMware to Hyper-V migration, right? So let me go to the Azure documentation. Can't we follow these two things? Prepare and assess, right? Prepare, assess, and migrate. Didn't we did the same thing for Hyper-V? Yeah, we did this for Hyper-V, and I'm asking you to do this, right? In your organization, you already have a VMware environment. You have to start from assessment. Okay. So can't you guys do that? Or can't you guys speak about that? There is no need for doing, at least. You can speak about it, right? Just look at the steps. They are absolutely the same. If you have not done Hyper-V, yeah, that's a different story. Then anyway, I'm not interested in you already. If you have not done the Hyper-V migration, then forget about migration. You yourself are trying to give a scope for someone to go beyond you. Okay, but if you have done Hyper-V migration, this is not at all difficult. Okay, so in that we have basically added the stuff. Is it not the same thing? Just have a look into it and then look into this documentation versus what I've done on the video. Right, and my database migration video also audio develop video also will not have any voice. It will just have steps. Okay, the reason is I want you guys to read through the documentation. It is very easy for me to speak, but me speaking, you will not do that activity. That's my biggest challenge, right? So are we clear on this? Okay, so can we write a basic ARM template? If we know the steps, can we write the template? Yes, sir. No one can write the template, is it? Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Right. The whole point over this is or this discussion is whatever we have discussed for this couple of weeks, right? They basically take you into a space where you are trying to speak more about automation, where you are trying to speak more about automation. Let it be migration is anyway requirement, but whatever we have spoken about ARM templates or whatever we have spoken about Azure blueprints will take you to the next level in your organization. This is design kind of choices. You are not basically clicking on UI every time. You are trying to write a template, and then you are deploying your applications using template, right? This template, when you call it from CI/CD application like Jenkins or whatever your company uses, that becomes DevOps, right? So you are speaking about automation, right? So these topics, whatever we have discussed in the span of the last 3 weeks, is will take your profile to next level. Okay, now next 3 weeks. Okay, this is something which we need to worry about. How about next 3 weeks? Okay, so next 3 weeks you need to attend, okay, DevOps classes also. So that means that daily you are attending the classes right now from 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. every day, right? But from now on, from Tuesday onwards, your classes will be from 6:30 a.m. to approximately 8:40 or 8:50 a.m. because you will be attending DevOps classes, Azure classes, okay, and also you will be attending DevOps classes, and also you will be attending DevOps classes. And in DevOps classes, we will be trying to learn Docker and Kubernetes. And in Azure, we will try to learn about development courses. Okay, so we will start our journey with Azure apps, Azure web. Okay, so what are these app services and what are these web services? How do we basically deal with that? Okay, then we will get into Azure functions. Then we will get into logic apps. Okay, right, we will try to discuss about this dev area of Azure. For the people who are not developers, you need not practice anything but come to the class, sit into the classroom and see what is happening. And if you are an administrator, focus on DevOps class. If you are an administrator, for the next 3 weeks, focus majorly on this. And in the Azure class, how much you are at understanding, that is fine. But if you come from dev world, for you both of them are important. 6:30 to 8:45, everything is important for you. Am I clear on this? All right, so if you come from admin world, it's okay, wonderful. So see, Azure class, you can just have a look at it. There is no need for you to practice and all that stuff. If you practice, wonderful. Even if you don't practice, there is no harm. Okay, but you have to give full attention to what is happening in DevOps classes, because this will end up becoming AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service, which is very much widely used. Okay, and that becomes completely your responsibility. Okay, right? And here we'll be speaking about dev application. So we'll be writing, I'll be taking some code, I'll be writing some code. If you basically understand that, wonderful. If you don't understand that, then also it is wonderful, because next 3 weeks is for developers. Okay, so you just try to come to the classes, understand whatever you can. Okay, so even if you don't practice at this moment, you complete any of your previous tasks which you have not finished, I'm okay with that. If you are an admin, okay, but if you are a developer, for you both of them are equally important, right, sir? Okay, so can we speak about migrations now? Azure migrations, a little bit about ARM templates. Okay, and what is blueprint, what is Azure blueprint? Yeah, so okay, so whatever we have done is for the people who are learning both Azure and DevOps parallelly, okay, who are enrolled to both the stuffs. If you understand it correctly, in DevOps we have learned something called as Terraform. And in Azure, we are learning something called as ARM templates. Both exactly do the same thing, but that is one is Azure's native way. The other one is a different way of basically achieving infra provisioning. Okay, and it will be good if you learn both. If you are learning both DevOps and Azure. Okay, right, sir. So the SQL migration, I'll try to share a video with you. I could have prepared the environment, but unfortunately, since I had to go to the diagnostic center, the whole time has burned there. I'm sorry for that. I should have done that, but I'll share a video with you that is installing a Microsoft SQL Server and then moving the data around to Azure. Okay, right. So any questions if you have, I think I'll answer them. No questions? Fine, fine. Okay. So I'll stop it at that. Okay. Remember, from Tuesday onwards, you have to attend both the classes. 6:30 to 7:30 will be learning Azure, and 7:45 to 8:45 will be learning DevOps. You have to come to both the classes. Don't tell me on Tuesday saying that I have not told. You have to attend. This is consider this to be as a part of your curriculum. Yeah. Right. Okay, right. We don't have a class on Sunday and Monday, Ramchandra. You're right. You'll not have Sunday. Tomorrow I have DevOps and AWS classes, right? So you guys, what I would want you to do is please run through the migration, okay? But I'll be giving you one exercise, okay? So this will be your challenge, okay? For the people who don't know it, okay, right? An ARM template to create virtual machine scale set in Azure, okay? So for the people who don't know what a virtual machine scale set is, I am giving you the documentation. Okay. So don't worry about what it does. Try to look at steps. Try to look at steps. Okay. So there is already a template over here. Please don't look into this and then try to do the same thing. Try doing this and validate with this. Validate with this. Okay. Can you do this? Okay. So you have to create a network. You have to do exactly what I've done when I created a virtual machine. The only difference being, rather than creating a virtual machine, you have to create something called as virtual machine scale set. You have to create something called as virtual machine scale set. Okay, guys. So I think that is what I had. Okay. So you do these activities, and from Monday onwards, if you are an admin, as I said, you will have to focus more on DevOps, okay, and less on Azure for the next 3 weeks. If you come from Dev world, you have to focus on Azure class and DevOps class equally, right? Thank you, sir. So that's what I had for the day, and okay, so we'll meet again on Tuesday. And as usual, if you want to speak with me, you can schedule a meeting with me. Some of you are already doing that, but if there is someone who is still unaware of it, so you can go to calendly.com/. Okay, and I think everyone is receiving an email with respect to this. Okay, so let me copy this. Okay, so if you want to schedule a meeting with me, you can obviously schedule a meeting with me, right? And from a week after that, I think somewhere around uh, somewhere around the 15th of June or something, I think we will start our foundation classes also, right? We'll start our foundation classes where we'll try to learn Linux, PowerShell, and Windows for 1 hour every day. Okay, either in the form of direct classroom or in the form of a YouTube video. But from June 15th onwards, you'll be having that actively. Okay, thank you, sir. Thanks for your time.